Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. We are live. Everyone, welcome to Everything Teams Phone Live. We're doing this today live from Comms vNext in Denver, Colorado, and we're excited to bring to you a guest that's going to show us how we can use Azure Communication Services and create amazing customer journeys. This is super exciting for me. Tom Morgan with Cloud Interact. Welcome to the show, Tom. Glad to have you here today.
Hey, Rick. Hey, everyone. It's great to be here.
Very good, very good. My co-host, Brandon.
Good afternoon.
There you go.
From Denver, Colorado.
Hey, and good evening and good morning from wherever you are. You know, it is crazy, and I say this quite often, but it's nuts that they give guys like us a platform to be able to get broadcast anywhere in the world. It's pretty exciting, right?
Cool.
All right. Well, everyone, today the topic is going to be Azure Communication Services. For those of you who have followed the channel, who follow the show, you guys all know that we talk about Teams Phone being the very beginning of business productivity. And this is exactly what we're talking about today. We're going to talk to you about productivity today and how you can achieve things with the Microsoft ecosystem. And Tom is an expert, again, with Cloud Interact, and he's a developer, has developed a lot of different solutions for organizations, and we're just gonna dive in.
It's cool. It's a good time to do it. Like, this is exciting because now it's not just teams in your org or with other orgs that you know and you're friends with. This is you talking to your customers.
What does that mean exactly? And that's exactly what we know about it. But you know, if you're talking to the consumers out there, to businesses, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So we know what Teams is. Like, we like Teams, and if you're in an organization, you might be using Teams, and you might like Teams too. And you can go and talk to other people that have Teams. And in the enterprise world, we understand that. Take it out of the enterprise, go into the real world, which is where your customers are, not where we're not real people, right? IT folk, we know how it all works, but like, we're not the real people. Out in the real world, people don't know what a Teams is, and
right.
Like, they're not going to download it and use it to go and talk to you just because, you know, you want to talk to them and reach them in some way, or they want to reach you for whatever reason that is. So the tools for customers have to be completely different. And now, for the first time, you can mix and match those worlds. So you can keep the people in your organization on Teams, but still use it to talk to people outside of that. Outside of that bubble.
And Tom, let me get one thing straight, and maybe more as a question. So what you're saying, what you're explaining to our viewers is we can extend out to a customer base, a user base that maybe they don't even know it's Teams, and now we don't even have to necessarily require them to install, because, you know, you go back 5-10 years, everything required, download this, install that. What you're saying is,
don't, right?
Yeah. Well, so what you're saying is now we can extend it and make it a very seamless, transparent experience.
And they shouldn't know they're using Teams. If they feel like they're using Teams, it's probably being done wrong. Like, they shouldn't feel like that. It should get out. It's the old adage, right? Make the technology get out of the way.
This is to me, this is mind blowing. It is mind blowing because you get an opportunity to go create a way for an enterprise that is using Teams, because we like Teams, we know Teams, we love Teams, to use their tool inside their organization and provide that to their customers, so that it's easy for their customers to speak to a particular person in the organization, chat with a person in the organization, video call someone in the organization.
Yeah. Screen share.
It's screen share. It's a great way for you to communicate with your customers. And at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, right? What does every business want to do? They want to provide great, you know, support and services and sales, you know, encounters with their customers. Right. And that's what this allows us to do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about specifically what does that mean now? Okay, so we're getting the gist of it. We've got high level. Let's break it down into what is an organization uses Teams. I use Teams every day. Great. What does that mean? Now, what's an example of a consumer using, or a business using it for their consumer?
So you might want to use this. Every vertical's got its thing, but, like, you know, there are some good examples that everybody understands. Support tickets, you know, IT support is maybe a good one because we understand that world. You know, we know what IT support is, but customers calling up, or, you know, I've got a problem with my laptop, but even take it outside of IT, I've got a problem with my fridge, with my dishwasher, with my piece of equipment, whatever it is. How like, you know what it's like. A picture is 1,000 words. If you could do that with a video, like, what would that look like? You could cut in half the time spent to figure out even just what the model number is.
That's a great example. I hadn't even thought of that example. So that's a great example. So let's just car dealership. I've got a car dealership. All my parts guys are sitting on Teams, on the Teams interface. Customer phones in, chats in. It says, hey, let me show you something. I'm looking at a part here, and here's a video. What is this right here? Here's the model number. Oh, that's your, flex capacitor.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a model, whatever it is. Yeah. That's fantastic.
But take it another step. Is I'm looking to buy a model, whatever it is. They don't have one in my local dealership. So I'll go online. There is a dealership 1,000 miles away. I'll just go through, I'll get put through to that person,
Yeah.
Or if I've got a general question, there's this interesting thing where we want to have local offices, and dealerships are a good example, but they're not busy all of the time. And so how can organizations make the most of those people? They make it really easy for them to participate online as well.
That's exciting. I've seen a German bank, and I think you and I were chatting about this earlier, which I thought was pretty interesting because you can see how it starts to expand. But I saw a German bank where you walked into the branch, and it is almost a virtual reality environment, but you walked into the branch and you went over to the loan department or something, and you saw the 4 or 5 people that were live in their loan department that you could chat with then and there. Can you see a time where Wells Fargo, big American bank, right? Has a virtual reality or a VR looking sort of interface for every branch, and the consumer could then just click on their branch and go, I know Tom from the branch and I want to chat with Tom, and he's available now. I'm not walking in there to go ask him some questions. Maybe I'm chatting with him.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can. I think it'll be interesting to see how that happens in the real world, because I think we're already seeing that in private banking and private wealth, where it makes sense to have that one-to-one relationship with your person. I think for more general banking, it will be you can go to your local store, and if that person is available, great, you get to talk to them. Otherwise, you're put in the VR room and you're connected with somebody in the world, somebody in America somewhere.
Right.
But yeah.
I think this, we already see this as well in healthcare, right? Where it's extending to virtual appointments, and then you couple that with artificial intelligence, and now doctors maybe can, check the back of your throat with a flashlight and a camera, and AI assists them on, you got strep throat, here's antibiotics. So it opens the door to a lot of possibility. Yeah, absolutely. And it layers on additional benefits that places like telemedicine will take advantage of, like everything is recorded and everything is documented and is easy, is indexed, and it's much easier to access because it starts online. It doesn't have to be, transcribed, right? Yeah. So you don't get that delay and that, the error rate and all the rest of it.
We've basically have been sitting here for 5 minutes, and we've come up with 4 or 5 different examples, and really the possibilities seem to be endless in nearly every scenario. Because if you take it to a sales environment now, and I go to, again, I want to use the auto dealers just because they sell widgets that, you sell auto vehicles, and now you've got a truck section, and you've got a group of people that are sitting on this, a way for them to interact with a group of truck experts, let's just say. So from a sales perspective, I can see how this would certainly increase, activity on your website or interactions on your website, so that your sales could increase. So support, sales, what other, the telemedicine, the financial thing you just mentioned too. I thought, I go back and I think about all these customer scenarios for existing customers that we have at G12 Communications. And I think, you're absolutely right, because if you go to wealth management as an example, where they do have that one-to-one relationship, a lot of the clientele, and I'm going out on a massive limb here, but a lot of the clientele may be a bit older and may not have, I know that's a big word.
I'm just looking at your hair while you say that.
Touche.
You mean toupee?
There you go. But they may not be technology people, right?
I don't know. I think something really interesting has happened in the last 3 years, right? So my parents are a good example of this. They're a little bit older. they're not naturally liking computers, you know what I mean? Like that wouldn't be naturally the place they go. I'm the tech support person. I live 600 miles away, so that's a fun challenge. But actually being able to do that over like video would be great, but I could never get them to using it. Like I could never get them to figure out Skype. It would never work. We just couldn't make it work. And then we had lockdown, and turns out when it's the only way to see the grandchildren, FaceTime's not that hard.
You figure it out.
So, yeah, and now they're fine with it, you know. And I think, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I feel like as a society across the board, we're much more accepting of video as a way of reaching companies than we were before.
All right. So what if you're just joining us, what we're talking about is simply having widgets on websites or interfaces on websites that connect you into Microsoft Teams internally to users in their Teams interface, so they don't have to leave the interface. And that service is Azure Communication Services at its core. It allows SMS, it allows video, it allows voice and chat, and then screen sharing as well, as you said,
absolutely,
right?
Screen sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like the possibilities again are endless, and so it really helps organizations embark on a whole new thought process on how they interact with their customer.
Yeah.
So this is pretty darn exciting. Brandon?
No, I mean my head is just spinning with more ideas, and I think, you know, as we move into this, we'll get into some probably even deeper examples.
Here you go. Well, we'll start the deep dive then. So let's do this then. Okay, the concept we all have now, pretty straightforward, right? You know, so something, not Teams, but outside communications, services coming in. Let's take it a step further now, Tom. Let's talk about Power Automate.
Okay. Yep.
What happens when you connect? Let's say the ACS services, things that come into our Teams, and then create workflows around that via Power Automate. What happens there?
You can do that. Yeah, absolutely. Like what you're starting to do is remove the process flow, like those kind of blockers. If you can automate some of that stuff, again, sprinkle in the AI stuff, that we're going to see that growing more and more and more. Then what you're really doing is making those flows faster and faster and faster, which for the end user results in a better experience. So this all comes back to customer experience. It all comes back to how can you tune your process, how can you tune what you're doing to make a better customer experience, because ultimately that's the competitive advantage, which is, that's what you care about as well as that kind of customer experience. So
I'm a literal person, and I usually learn visually, right? But so I'm walking through a scenario here. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go back to the car dealership just because I'm stuck on that for a little while. So some consumer that's sees these trucks, right, and decides, well, we're going to interact with a person that's a truck expert. So they type in, hey, let's talk, let's have a chat, Tom. Mm-hmm. And so we have a chat. Well, via Power Automate, could you see that I'll call that a sales lead comes into the organization. Tom, you're chatting with the person that is looking to acquire said truck. And you've got a management team that says, hey, we want every interaction logged in a CRM. We want to know where that stands so that we can keep track of it, just in case you're not around next month, Tom.
Yep.
No, but could you see Power Automate being used to take that conversation and slide it over into a CRM to log that? Maybe it's Dynamics, maybe it's Salesforce, maybe it's something like that.
Yeah, no, you could absolutely do that. Like, that's the beauty of some of this stuff, is that it is becoming quite modular. You can... The bigger challenge in a way is figuring out what the process is. Like once you can do that, that's the hard work in now. Like a lot of these components just fit together kind of nicely now. So if you know what you want to achieve, you can do it either by the stock components of Power Automate or a flow or a Power App or whatever else it is, or with some custom code.
I love that. Because again, you take that and you go, okay, now it's copied over into the CRM. Maybe they bought something, maybe they didn't. Maybe Tom dropped the ball. But in a couple of days, that person could then get a follow-up email from their CRM, right? And say,
The other thing is, a week later, like nothing happens. A week later, they're back in the same dealership, or they're doing it online or something like that. And because it's online, because they logged in or whatever, like it goes the other way, so it pulls back from the CRM, and so the person that gets connected gets all that context. It's like, are you still here about that part? Like, yes, whatever, no, it's about something else.
The other way around. How great is that?
One of the things that I'm fascinated by it just because I come from a contact center background. Last 5 years prior to G12 is voice sentiment. So when you talk about how someone interacts, it's not just about what they're interacting about. It's, the tone, the inflection, the mood. And, I've seen it in action, not necessarily with teams, but just in general. And my mind always goes there as we're talking about these examples is not only could you feed probably that CRM and retrieve that data, but you could also enrich that data with sentiment to say, hey, Tom's back. His mood was X, and we need to change that to Y. Yeah. And here's some incentives that maybe we can offer you to do that. Yeah. So it's fascinating to me.
And not only that, like that we have the power and like it's real time enough that you can gamify that to your contact center agent. So either it's automatic, so you just put them through to the better people, the more experienced people, whatever it is, because you know that last time they had a poor experience, or it's gamified. Yep. Like turn them around, positive score plus this, we do whatever the reward scheme is, Amazon gift card or whatever it is. Yeah.
And then even supplements real-time coaching if you really bring it to the forefront. Now it's, maybe you're talking to Rick and his gray hair is showing, so it's time to get you off of Rick and onto a younger guy like myself.
That would be really interesting if it's all chat-based as well. Would you even notice?
Yeah, I don't know that you would.
I don't know.
Sorry, Rick. I had to throw that one.
No, that's okay. That's okay. All right. So let me. Here's a question for you. What are some of the coolest, I guess, web interfaces that you have seen deployed where ACS has taken, not center stage, but really it's being put to really good use? What have you seen out there?
So I did some cool stuff in a past life around telemedicine, which kind of hit around pandemic, which was just the right time for it. And that was that helped. That was all in the mental health space. So that was kind of nice because you felt like you were doing something useful as well.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. And then we see like there's some good like use cases we see where video, because I'm all about getting people to video because I think it makes such a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
And so the use case we see that, like for instance, like insurance claims are a good one because it's quite it can be quite an emotional event, like whether that's a car crash or a tree falling on your house. And so at the moment, what tends to happen is you call up your insurers and you're like, there's a tree that's fallen on my house. And they're trying to figure out, okay, like, do you need a new house? Do you need some guttering? Like, what's the spectrum? and so they're trying to ask you these questions around, well, how bad is it? And you're like, how bad is it? It's my house. It's very bad. Because you want to jump the queue. You want to like get your stuff sorted. So actually being able to video is immediate, and also the person on the other end has way more experience about trees falling on houses than you do. So they are asking, they suddenly see all these other things as like, oh yeah, no, it's not that bad, but there's something else that's way worse that's just happened, or consequential, like there's a other bit of tree that's blocking the road, and that's actually quite a lot more important than your house right now. Whatever, like that's an example, but you can kind of see how instantly video cuts through like so much. Describing.
I mean, if you're an organization out there and you're looking and you're watching this video, this is fantastic stuff for customer journey. I mean, it's what the future holds for, I guess, for productivity, for automation, for a better customer journey. It's pretty dang exciting.
It is. It can really change customer journeys, I think.
It does. It's mind-blowing. I can imagine if you talk to a business owner, a CIO, or even the president of an organization, you said, here are the options, and you kind of said, this is what we can do from a website for your customers, and you give them 4 or 5 different scenarios. That person is now not stuck, but that person is now going to spend the next week just going through customer examples, because if you have customer examples to relate to, you go, oh, because you know how your business works. I mean, I think about our customers and I think about how this is going to be implemented for our customers, for their customer.
The other thing, sorry, just quickly, is the way all this stuff needs to tie together. Because so at the moment you can do web chat, like that's the thing we all do, right? But it's not associated in any way with any of the other, like it's not associated with voice. So like a lot of companies will do voice, or have a phone number you can call, and they'll have chat. And so often I go to the company, I go to chat first because it's kind of easier, and you do the thing and you describe the whole problem, and then you get to a certain point and they're like, this is way too complicated for chat, you need to call us. It's like, okay. And you call and you get a completely different person. You've got to start all again.
Yeah.
Like, it should not be like that. It should be like, I'm having the chat, now I want to take just the same person, I just want to go to voice. And now if I need to, I want to go to video. You know?
Isn't that crazy that is not built in design that way? There is a path to escalating the call sometimes in some platforms and some software, but the majority of them out there are not. It's a different channel. So you go to a different channel, you get a different person.
Yeah. And agents hate having these multiple things as well. I can't remember there was some research done recently, like there's some big chunk of reasons that agents are unhappy and go elsewhere is that having to deal with multiple different things, like multiple different softwares, and different applications.
Well, you just said that example though. Contact center solutions are really built to increase their productivity, but they're built to shave seconds off of an interaction, right? I mean, it's really built to how do we decrease that interaction time and make this person more useful in the organization? And when you just explained that scenario, you look at that and you go, how much time is saved? How much time is spent actually in the recommunicating of, if that's even a word, recommunication of the same story?
Right. Yeah. Even if like the people who do the chats are different from the people who do the voice, which is a different. Like maybe that's right. Maybe it's just you've arrived that way because of the tech and all the rest of it. But even if that is true, having the person receiving on the voice side just being able to scan the conversation must save time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get back to that telemedicine thing really quickly. So was it a scheduling component in there already too? So front end scheduling, interaction, jumping in?
It actually wasn't, just because certainly in the UK, these providers have their own scheduling stuff set up already. So there was kind of no need, and it was going to just add more friction. So it was like, let's not do that. Let's just concentrate on getting two people to talk to each other,
Nice.
Yeah.
And what comes along with ACS is all the security, all the encryption.
Yeah, so it all lives in Microsoft Azure. It lives in your tenant. It lives in your region. It's under your control. It shows up in your Azure tenant as just another resource, so you can secure it that way, same way you would a website or a database or any other of those Azure resources. Yeah.
Do you find that's one of a customer's biggest question is around where's my data when you start talking about ACS? And because I know I see that even with just our Operator Connect product, they want to know what is this enterprise application and how do I know it's secure?
Right. Yeah, it is. It can. It's almost the other way around, right? It's the biggest thing that can derail that project until they find out it's on Azure, and it's like, oh, Microsoft. We've been through the tick box.
Yeah,
okay, fine.
Yeah.
Huh. My mind is spinning still. I'm sitting here. I really just want to talk to the customers out there. Going, are you listening to this, guys? If you run a business, if you're the CIO, if you're the president, if you're the VP of marketing, the VP of sales, and I look at this and go, it increases sales because if you can put better interaction on a website, it's no longer just a little toaster pop sort of chat box that pops up, right? And we're talking full on communications right from your website in any medium that you want or any channel that you want, right? Mm-hmm. If you're listening to this is stuff to really start to investigate. And again, we say this all day, every day, but it's, Teams is the very beginning of your business productivity. And this is exactly why the tools that are being built to allow customers to do that. So we got Power Automate for automation of tasks, post-interaction or even pre-interaction, but you've got Power Automate, you've got Azure Communication Services. What else? What have you built, Tom, that's just exciting?
Yeah, so that is interesting. Like joining up Azure Communication Services and Teams is the big unlock. Getting those into, say, Teams meetings is interesting. Teams apps as well, to just kind of you want to make that on the team side. You want to make the agent. And I keep saying I don't mean agent really, because what we have found is that it doesn't necessarily end up being the agents when you've got this model where you're being quite specific about what the problem is and who it should route to. Often it's people who that's not their full-time job. Like they have another role in the company. They're just really expert at this particular thing or this particular product, and they're the right person to take 30 seconds out of their day and answer this strange question for a customer because it's ended up there. So actually, because once you're in the Teams ecosystem, it's way easier to reach into the rest of your company and just bring people in, or just have those side conversations if they're not happy talking direct with the customer, just have those side conversations. So doing sort of Teams apps to help make that experience a little bit smarter, again, drawing in from, say, CRM or previous conversations and displaying it to agents. Obviously, like, things are exploding at the moment in terms of AI, and how that can really help and assist agents by drawing on the previous body of knowledge to kind of suggest solutions and suggest people and all the rest of it. So, yeah.
I was wondering what the AI sort of, kind of insertion would be in this scenario. And I think that you just kind of hit it, would be interesting is gathering previous data and displaying, most likely scenarios, right, in an instant, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that seems pretty interesting. A pretty basic way of using it, but
yeah, I think that's probably the most realistic. Like you can imagine, right? Like maybe the AI will answer all the questions and I won't need agents anymore. I'm not sure we're there yet, right? I think having it as a way to suggest things to agents feels like a smart move.
Right. And we do that. I mean, organizations do that today, right? If you're in a chat today and you've got it's the real short suggestions like, thanks, great, all right? That's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about a bit more comprehensive in that it's collecting data from multiple sources.
This looks like a problem with the drainage of the A762. 85% of previous issues, it was this thing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say big sales organizations, sales needing to get approval on a deal, and you've got all this data that AI can model and say,
the ROI is there.
Yeah, 80% of the time, this is the deal offered and this is the deal accepted. And now it makes it real easy for sales, whoever is giving that approval to say, go,
It meets the criteria. It meets the criteria.
Go do it.
You've put the criteria out there. It meets it. No one even needs to approve it. It just, because AI says, hey, we've taken a look at it. It meets the criteria, calculated for you. Here's a term sheet and off we go.
Yeah. And even if that's a step too far, let's just automate what that approval process looks like. Don't make the agent fill up a form or talk to anyone. It's like you already have everything you need. Go and send the IM to the approver with a nice adaptive card, because Teams chat doesn't have to just be plain text chat. You can make it a nice adaptive card, so you can put all of the information in. Ding, 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 ding. This person needs approval. Click one button. Done.
Yeah, here's a link to the approval if you want to even.
And that can probably happen whilst the agent and the customer are still on the call.
On the call.
Because if you can wrap it all up in one call, you save so much time. It doesn't go into the CRM. You haven't got a callback. You save so much money if you can get it all resolved on the first call.
And then I suppose then you use your automate to feed it into the CRM when you're done for your record keeping.
Hey, your sales is closed, done and done, right? This is again, it's pretty exciting because I'm you guys are technologists, so I'm a business guy. So I look at it from how can I help this customer perspective. Obviously, you guys do as well, and I get giddy with the technology, even though I'm not a technologist, just because I can envision services for organizations. I can envision products for organizations and what they've got to look forward to if Teams is their phone system, right? If they're sitting in Teams.
Yeah.
What else, Tom? What's like you've done the telemedicine thing. What else kind of strikes you as particularly proud of a solution?
Yeah, there's another way that I would say this is interesting as well, that is kind of slightly different from what we've been talking about, of like the business to consumer side of things, which is internal to an organization. You can flip ACS around and take this technology of being able to do calling in a web page, but you can do it in like a special way with identity, which we can kind of dig into. But basically, you can have people inside your organization use their Teams identity, and take those Teams calling bits and pieces and put them into other bits of your software. So in your CRM, you can have like click to call this person, like use ACS to connect to this person in Teams. You're still using Teams, you still go red on your presence, all that kind of stuff. It is a Teams call that gets made, but you haven't got to go from your CRM back to Teams, your Teams back to CRM. You can stay in the CRM, you can see who the account manager is, you can click a button, you can be talking to them, or you can send them a chat or anything like that. That's a nice kind of, again, it's about saving time, and it's, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not now. That's even that's on a different level now than I've even thought. So you could embed it into internal organization applications, right? If an organization lives in Zendesk, let's just say, and someone sits in Zendesk and they're working in Zendesk and they've got to do something. I mean, and it presents to them, or they've got their ability to make a call out right from their Zendesk. Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I would envision it. You got your support sitting on Zendesk, and support has a question for you, Rick. They don't have to pivot to Teams, right? They just pop up your little contact, type your message, and boom, away you go.
Yeah. And I don't know that much about Zendesk, so like,
it's
imagine like
ticketing
just a-
system, just
yeah.
a ticketing system.
Yeah, I know.
Another
Like-
CRM.
Like, what I'm going to say is like, let's imagine that the integration is nice and simple. Actually, what you want to do is take the summary. You don't have to type the summary out of the ticket. So when you click the button to be like, send the message, it's like, boom, here's the message. Like, what do you want to add on? Because here's the title, here's the synopsis, here's the last update, here's the, how long the ticket's been open. Yeah.
How difficult do you think it's going to be for organizations? I mean, how complex is this stuff? So, and who do organizations work with to go figure out ACS? I mean, it's not, to me, it's not something that's, mainstream. Teams Phone, as an example, isn't mainstream just yet. Even though it's huge, it's not mainstream just yet. So who does an organization, do they work with their, are there specific people that are in the Microsoft ecosystem that are geared towards this? Is it your CSP? I mean, it seems to me like this is real specialized. It seems like.
And so it's different from Teams. So Teams is like a product, right? Azure Communication Services isn't a product; it's a platform. So it's a service that Microsoft and Azure give to developers to build solutions on top of. So it's a developer platform really, rather than being like a SKU. You can't buy an Azure Communication Service, like,
right.
You know what I mean? All you get is the platform, and then it's on you to build on top of it. So that's getting easier all the time, because the Azure Communication Services team, they have a whole bunch of like UI components that you can just drop in. So if you want to drop in like just a meeting experience with all the buttons and the participant list and the video feed, and let's like boom, drop it in to your front end website and off you go. Or you can break it down into individual components. If you want to do something super specific, you can build it up yourself, but you've got to kind of do it yourself. And that's either in-house dev teams or it's a partner.
Do you see this as organizations, and this is just like on this side of the house, not necessarily customer side of the house, but do you see organizations starting to form that are specific to creating tools that can be replicated, or tools that can be used over and over for businesses of the same sort of, in the same sort of vertical? A healthcare tool. I've built a healthcare tool. It does X, Y, Z, and I can take this to a bunch of different healthcare organizations and deliver that on a base level, but then I can add customization as an example.
Yeah, we do, and it's the customization that sets it apart, really. Like, so, and we're doing this. Like, we're creating these kind of box solutions around different verticals, but very much in the knowledge that still it's quite, they need tweaking, because every organization is slightly, because we're talking about process flows and we're talking about experience,
right?
And so every customer is ever so slightly different.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's really interesting, because that's exactly kind of what I, being in the telecom space, we look at it and go, no, there's not a one size fits all, right? It's like, here's a product. We could take a product into an organization, but it all requires tweaking.
Yeah.
And so I envision, ACS very much that in the same way. And organizations like telcos today, or like cloud telcos today, where you're going to go deploy a base functionality sort of solution, and then you've got to take it in with some pro services and deploy out to the organization.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's one of those things you have to keep revisiting as well, because it changes over time. Like, processes change or people change, and yeah.
The velocity of changes that are coming in Microsoft and Teams today with AI, different Teams Phone sort of rollouts, the velocity of changes and updates is staggering. I mean, I haven't even caught up on any of the meeting room information that's out there today, and it's like overwhelming already.
Yeah.
And so having an organization that helps you, and there's no segue into this at all, but I was just thinking about it from a business perspective. Like, that would be pretty cool, like that kind of organization.
Well, I think that's probably where, again, we're going off topic now, but I think that's where AI helps, right? We see we can't keep up with how fast even Microsoft alone is moving. So this is where AI is going to come in and supplement. I think people worry about losing their job. And for me, it's like, no, it's going to help me keep my job, because I can't keep up as a human.
Yep. No, absolutely.
Well, I don't know how he went into AI, but I will say this.
AI
yeah, it does.
It's the buzzword right now.
I will say though that you do need to be an embracer of AI, right? Versus kind of holding it back. I think it's pretty interesting if you embrace and leverage. As a person that's a business guy, let's just say, right? I can see the use case in 10 different ways, and I need someone to help even manage that, because it's going to produce. I mean, the productivity that produces is so significant.
Yeah, yes, I agree, and it's still early days though. I think that tempered with some healthy realism and like testing and like right sizing and stuff. Sure.
Yeah, it's like there's I'm trying to think about the guy that I follow on YouTube. Let's just say as an example, he's a search engine optimization kind of guy, and this is way off topic for SEO stuff, but he uses AI for SEO stuff. I mean, and it's just it's fantastic, like how much he can produce. And so again, from a business guy perspective, I get all excited about this stuff, and I'm just like, oh wow, you can use so many different tools. Anyway, we should probably get off that topic just because that can be an all dayer. Okay, Brandon, any questions about ACS stuff? This is to me, this is just super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going back to a kind of an earlier conversation piece that we were talking about the disparate tools and the the lost productivity, and obviously we can talk about the Forrester stuff if we want, but we're talking at lunchtime with a group of people about how do you get people to move from legacy, Avaya, Mitel, because that's, Rick and I, that's what we see all day long is we're having these conversations with clients that they know they want to move to it. They have no idea how to move to it. And unless you can move them, how do you get them educated, or how do you begin the education process on this topic of process automation? Right? And that, to me, that's like, I don't know, Rick, if I'm speaking for you, but that's like a huge hurdle, I think, for what we talk about every day of our lives.
And this is, I was so excited to have this conversation with you, right? Because this is, I look at this as a way for us to package up some basic information and take that out to organizations. We work with a lot of healthcare, a lot of banking organizations, a lot of education institutions, right? And packaging up kind of the basics of ACS, and maybe what are the basics that can be created to help their organization and create some level of productivity. That way you look at the base productivity that you start to win over and you go, that's massive. That we're not even talking about any sort of cost savings yet or anything. I mean, the calculation that looks, if you did just to refer to your Forrester report, the productivity gain was a significant portion of the savings that an organization realized, right? It wasn't just telco and telco management and licensing. It was also the productivity. That then becomes, if you could show some base level of productivity, right? You become almost a business consultant, not just here's how to swap out your telco. You almost become a business consultant, and you actually do have to understand what your clients are experiencing, right? It's a real consultative discussion, because as technologists, and I'll loop myself in at this point because I can communicate what's out there a little bit. You look at that and you go, there's so much that you can do just scratching the surface that's going to save you a significant amount of time, energy, whatever it may be, right? That adds to the bottom line.
Yeah, and you're going to have happier people as well. Like if they, like a lot of people are working at home right now, and some of that, that's by choice. Like if you can tell them that they don't have to come into some corporate head office or contact center to do their contact center calls, we can give them, a nice blurred corporate background because they're using Teams. They can carry on using Teams every day. The corporate image is maintained. Suddenly, you've got a much healthier workforce as well.
You do, and that was actually in that Forrester report. Okay. It was as a non-quantifiable, so they didn't put a dollar on it even, right? So there was happier customers, there was happier employees, and there was something else in there. There was three components of that were they weren't quantifiable, right, with a dollar figure, yeah. But it absolutely lends to what's available and what's what we're seeing in organizations. We look at when we deploy organizations, we go, man, they're really happy. I mean, for Teams Phone, even not starting the business productivity side of it. So that's the exciting piece of this thing.
Yep. And IT are happier as well, right? Because they don't want to deal with 2 or 3 different comm systems, right? They want to deal with Teams.
Oh yeah.
And if they've got quality issues, like it's in one place on, yeah.
I wonder. That's a good question. I wonder what the what the resources required are. Let's say you deploy something, and you've got a partner that helps you deploy some business process, right? Mm-hmm. And you look at that and you go, okay, I've got this process. It works. I'm using it every day. I use it for a year. Mm-hmm. Is it a re-engagement after that to go, hey, you should probably look at this. This process changed. And obviously if a change happens, then we know to re-engage people. But
yes, and mostly that's because organizations tend to change as they become comfortable. They've taken this big step forward to come to this point of using ACS, whatever, like to change those business processes. After 6-7 months, a year, whatever, they're happy with that, but normally it's them coming to you saying, like, we've done that, we're happy, and we've identified half a dozen more things. Can we move forward now, please?
Right.
Rather than you coming back to them. Yeah.
Right. Now, please. Thank you.
Right. Yeah.
That's exciting stuff. What's your most favorite project you've worked on?
Ooh. I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. I think anything. So anything that's contact center based, anything that is ACS to Teams. The healthcare one kind of does stand out just because of the timing and like the way it all worked out and stuff. So that's kind of a good one. But yeah, I think contact center ones are exciting as well though, because they're normally they're all different, right?
Yeah.
I'm amazed how different lots of different contact centers work in a way you wouldn't expect. Like internally, like the call flows and the queues and like all those things, everybody seems to have their own thing. Like, I want to hear this here, and then after 32 seconds I want to hear this thing, and then they want to go into a queue and they want to hear the queue position every 15 and a half seconds, unless it's more than or less than 5. Like, it's everyone's got their own thing, which keeps it fun. Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking it's almost, I mean, it actually is software development. So when you get into software development and you take on a project, you take on the project not to finish the project, because the project will never be finished.
Software's never done.
So I have a question, Tom, about, I mean, it doesn't have to be contact center specific, but just thinking about, as you talk about the complexity of, say, of a call flow, if it does this, then do that. Do you think with ACS and kind of the automation and the functionality, do you think it's going to force businesses to take a step back and reevaluate how they're doing things? So the example is, because again, I came from contact center from a background perspective, and I remember we would take huge clients and we'd move them from an Avaya to a Cisco or Cisco to Avaya, or we'd move them around, and it was always new system has to do exactly what my old system did. So do you think ACS is going to force businesses to kind of move away from that mindset to start thinking about, okay, it's time to do something different so we can do it better or more efficient?
So in a previous life, and this must be 15 years ago, probably, I worked for a company that sold furniture online, which was quite a thing back then. It's not, as I said it in my head, I was like, yeah, and they had a warehouse of stuff, as you know. And they didn't really have a warehouse management system. It was like, it had evolved over time. There were just people and paper and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
And we went as a company, went out to tender and found this warehouse management company as a service thing, and they came and did it. And we went through the whole thing. It's like, this is our process. We do this. And they were like, that's fine, but actually 90% of warehouses run this way, and you can come and see some really big names. So, like, this is 80-90% of what you're already doing. You should change to use this process. Like, you can do it your way, but we're going to charge you so much money. You are much better snapping to the process that everybody else uses and just paying the monthly rate.
Yeah.
And that was kind of an eye-opener for me, that the company had the confidence to say that, to say, actually, customer, like, you think you know best, but sometimes you don't. Try this before you spend loads of money and time. And I hope we can see something of that in ACS.
Well, that makes a whole lot of sense, though, right? Because, I mean, that organization probably lived it in all those case studies and those examples.
Right.
Right? So the confidence should certainly be there, right? When you go to an organization and go, look, we really want to help you, but this is a better solution for you. I mean, it's that consultative discussion that I think you're going to have with organizations these days from a business process perspective. And you're never going to understand their business better than them, but you may understand that vertical better. You may understand, process a bit better. Well, there's a little bit of lightning there, huh? Their process a bit better. Not their process specifically, but in that sort of vertical, let's just say, and being able to explain to them. I mean, I relate it to us just because I go, we're the phone experts, we're the telecom experts, and a customer comes to us and says, this is what we're doing, but we look at that and go, you should probably do it this way because there's more efficiency here, there's better this there, right? So that makes sense that they were able to do that. It's always a cautious approach though, because you want to help the customer and without offending, right? But you are the expert.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, their answer was to take us to like an equivalent manufacturer that was like it's a well-known name in the UK that sells like vacuum cleaners. So we all went down to their warehouse, which was immaculately clean. That was the only thing I really remember, because it was quite a long time ago. It's absolutely pristine. And they ran this software, and we were just like, this is amazing. Like,
it's like the Amazon warehouse or something.
Yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, we do need to try and do this. Like, so it's cool.
That's interesting. Well, this is all just super cool for businesses. I don't even have, I'm almost at a loss for words right now, because I'm just sitting here thinking, my mind's just rattling, not just from an end user perspective or a client perspective, but from a service provider perspective, going, where do we take this to the next level? We get you an organization, we get them to take down phone. What's kind of the next logical step for us after they take down phone? That's simple to go, hey, here's some additional services in our ACS, and this is really cool.
Yeah, and we haven't really even touched on the other things ACS does, like SMS and all that kind of stuff. Like, so if you're an organization that does, appointments rather than, we've been talking quite a lot about ad hoc, scheduled, virtual appointments and stuff. But there's a whole scheduled side of things. So appointment reminders and all that kind of stuff, being able to automated SMSs and
Did you see the Teams announcement last week? I think it was last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. It was the Cerner and Epic connectors.
Yes.
Into the healthcare, and maybe it's the U.S. healthcare market, but connect. And to me, it seemed like there's a lot of that embedded in there. If you have Teams phone, if you're ACS, I don't know what tools there are for ACS, but really this connector to help bring healthcare organizations into that automated scheduling and automated tool process. It seems pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's almost the other side of the coin is, that Teams approach of doing it, because Teams now has, virtual appointments, it has that customization. I will say it's not as customizable as doing it yourself, but what you're buying is a product. Come back to Teams is a product, ACS is a platform.
Yeah.
So you can go either route, like whichever is best for you in terms of money or time, or the ability to change it to get it just right for you, whatever that looks like. You've got lots of options, and that's probably the biggest thing about it. There's lots of opportunities, a lot of options as well.
All right, so I'm going to ask you if this now gets personal now. All right, so what was how did you get into Microsoft stuff? Have you always been a Microsoft guy? What's your sort of background, and how did you get into this?
Yeah, so I'm a developer by trade. Like, I've always done development. I did computer science at university, and sort of fell into that world of doing development. About 11 years ago, I moved to a company called Modality Systems, big ISV, as was then, and very much known in the Link and Skype for Business world, and joined them to build out that development team. I wasn't the first developer in. I became part of that team, and then the team grew and grew and grew. And so from those early days, I then the next 10 years, I kind of snapped to development within the Microsoft comms ecosystem of Link, Skype, Teams, and built out like that. I mean, I still do other development stuff that's not comms based. I find it, as a developer, you don't want to pigeon yourself too hard, right? So like I want to be able to make sure I can still go do front end, back end, middle, go write an API for a database, and as well as just focusing on just the comm stuff for Teams.
Do you feel like because you've been in Teams now, call it 11, 12 years, right? You said so. So do you feel like now is, not or Microsoft, the ecosystem for Microsoft, do you feel like Teams has really just kind of hit that point where you go, this is now fantastic because I've been doing this for 11 years, but now I see world domination, and in terms of customers. I'm just kidding about world, but I you see that and you go, this is an amazing product because now this is what's really got massive scale, and is that?
Yeah, I mean, so Teams has been really, in terms of scale, and Microsoft have always software has always been a big differentiator for Microsoft. So the things they bring to market, certainly in my experience, like telecoms world, even sort of Link and even OCS, they had extensibility points for developers, because I think Microsoft realized that getting partners and helping partners to layer on top really fills in the gaps, and helps companies make something that is just right for them. And so they've always had like a software story, and that's been true for Teams as well. And we've just seen that grow and become more and more important, and the App Store and all the rest of it. And this is now, like, the Azure communication stuff is not just Teams, but it all shares the same. It's all the same underlying sort of substrate, if you like, of the comms platform. It's the same thing. ACS is like a friendly API over that same big substrate that Teams uses for its calls.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular at this show that you're excited to see?
Yeah. So there's some. I've already seen some cool stuff. The biggest thing about shows like this, I'm always terrible at sessions. I'm terrible at finding the time to go to the sessions, right? Because I have all these like plans, I have all these like good ideas, and then I walk in like you saw earlier, and just like see someone. Oh, hey, I haven't seen you. And so I spend the whole time in the expo hall talking, and not doing anything else. But I am hoping to get to some sessions.
There you go.
Yeah, I am.
There's the great sessions here.
Yeah.
I mean, we were in one, direct routing, moving over to Operator Connect, that we thought was interesting.
Yep.
A device one that Tracy Her put on that was really cool.
Yeah, and the presenters actually here are the experts in what they're talking about. And so I was a session this morning, and it kind of became a Q&A, because and the presenter made that happen by saying something, and it's like, what do you guys think? And then we're like, what about this one? And then then that's where you really start learning stuff. Yeah.
We learned that in the first session when Tracy got up and did her device session, and I'm like, wow. She's the absolute expert.
Well, and she's the engineer, because it was just cut and dry. It was just like, this is how you do it. If you have questions,
and you shouldn't be doing it this other way. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, I was gonna say, just obviously this is our first year here at this Comes vNext. Rick and I were just in London at another not team specific show, but they did a session in London that kind of rolled into Microsoft and Teams, and you had all these industry experts, and I'm not knocking them necessarily, but they're sitting on stage trying to talk about Microsoft, but they're competitors. And what impresses me about this one is it seems more user forum based, but yet you've got, at least the one we went to with Tracy, a Microsoft employee who's standing there representing the data we're discussing, which kind of it adds a lot of validation to this kind of forum that's going on here.
This is a way. It's not such a commercialized forum, and look, I'm a business guy, so that's near and dear to my heart. But it's I'll call it really low key. It's low key. It's really informative. The community is so I'll call it accepting and willing to share anything and everything to bring everyone up in terms of knowledge and skill set.
It is, and the Microsoft Teams community is a fantastic community, but yes, this conference is very much by the community for the community. I mean, the organisers, they all live and breathe the community. They've spent a lot of time in it. They give a lot to it, and I know they would say like this is very much a community conference, and I think that shows, and it does bring those kind of speakers, like you say, from Microsoft, who want to just educate and want to tell people about the thing they're passionate about as well, and the thing that they are the world expert in. Because if you got the PM for some feature, there's nobody that knows that feature better.
Right. That's amazing. So one more thing about you, Tom. So new role, yeah. What's the new role? Yeah.
So it's a kind of one of those mix of all those. Lots of different things kind of role, So yeah, working inside Cloud Interact, doing a few things, building some solutions using Azure Communication Services to build on in unusual places, places where we haven't seen it being used before, and that's for customers, but also I think trying to just try some different things out and take them to people and say, would you what about here? Would you use it here? Because actually you use this particular product all day long, but you don't do it with video. Why is that? Is it because you just haven't thought of doing it, or you thought your video lived over here in Teams and Microsoft, and your application is not in Teams and Microsoft? It's it's some other CRM or ERP or something like that, and you just didn't think those worlds could connect, because actually they can now. So
Yeah.
so I'm spending some time building some proof of concepts as well, which is lots of fun.
Pretty exciting then, huh?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good fun.
All right, very good. I do want to say this Comms vNext show, if you're a Teams ecosystem person and you're interested in coming to Comms vNext, you should certainly next year come to Comms vNext, because we found this extremely helpful in navigating the ecosystem and understanding who fits where in terms of organizations and stuff like that. So it's been really kind of educational from my perspective. The last thing I'll say is this awesome podcast booth is sponsored by vNext Solutions, and Eric does an amazing job with kind of setting everything up and getting everything teed up for guys like us to come and produce our show on and not have to lift a finger. So
it's awesome. Like, you can show up. Well, I'm a bad example of this, proving that you can show up 30 seconds before and just throw a set of headphones on and it's fine.
That's right. It's fantastic to not have to worry about the communication piece of the tech piece of it.
Yeah, and it's such a great setup, actually. It's really. I'll take some pictures and put them on Twitter, because unless we grab one of these cameras and turn them around, which I'm not going to do because Eric will shout at me, I can see. But like, yeah, it's a great setup he's got that like literally just fits in a aircraft case.
I have a feeling Rick's going to be asking Eric if he can fly out to Washington every Friday for our show.
Every Friday.
Yeah.
I'm just packing some of this stuff up and taking it with me, but somebody has to go work it still, though. So I'm like, oh, this.
Eric was telling me earlier, yeah. You might. Eric was telling me you can't carry it by himself, so you might need some help.
I will. Okay, Brandon, any final words?
No, I mean, this has been a great conversation with you, Tom. For our viewers, it may be, for some of you, it's a little intimidating to listen to this. For us, it's exciting, but looking forward to being able to, watch this come together, where maybe one day I can attempt to give a demo of something and hope that it goes smoothly. But appreciate having you, Tom.
This time next year, I imagine we'll be able to, like, whatever channel it is that we're talking on, we'll be able to, like, here's a web link, come and like.
Well, I'm hoping
show examples.
It's my VR showing up next.
Yeah.
Your avatar.
My avatar.
Your avatar. No, it's going to be awesome to show some concepts, or to show some ideas and show some examples. That's really cool. That's why I bring up that German bank, because I've seen the example and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Yep. Tom, thank you very much for joining us on Everything Teams Phone Live. This has been really exciting, live from Comms vNext. Everyone, thanks so much for watching and joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll tag Tom in our messages on LinkedIn. But if you want to chat about ACS, Azure Communication Services, Teams Phone, the very basics or the very start of your business productivity, you'll want to just book a meeting with us and chat with us. And again, once again, thanks so much to vNext Solutions for setting all this up, and really excited to be here at Comms vNext. We'll see you at Channel Partners next week. Everything Teams Phone Live, episode 15. We'll catch you then. See you, everyone.